What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of On the Block. Igor, Joe. It's December 11th, 2020 still. The year's not done. More surprises.
Almost there.
But obviously, so preseason started today, and Raptors have their first game tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been some soap opera stuff that's happened in the NBA so far. So we've had James Harden partying with Lil Baby. Not familiar with his music, but when partying with Lil Baby, looked like he bought him a Rollie. Looked like he gave him like $100,000 in cash.
Yeah, James has enough money, I guess.
Things I don't know if you
takes care of his friends, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if you gift another man those things. Topic for another day. But anyways, so he's pretty much demanded a trade. Daryl Morey's gone. He's now in Philly. So new coach, new GM, and word on the street is that Harden has wanted out ever since the new coach, Silas, has come in. Okay, I got a lot to say. You can go first, but so let's just recap of really what's happened since. So they got him for Steven Adams and I believe maybe one other player. They want Steven Adams, hell of a player, but like you're getting a superstar in James Harden, an MVP, a runner-up to MVP in another 2 years. They won that trade, and Houston's done really well. Mm-hmm. So first they bring in Dwight Howard, who at that point you could argue was still in his prime, at least athletically. He wasn't broken down too much.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out too much.
No.
But we're like, I think the NBA world's like, oh, whatever, like Dwight wants too many touches. It's 2015, like it's a new game. We're shooting threes, layups and threes is what Houston's done. That didn't work. So he gets a pass, right? Sure. All of a sudden, fast forward maybe 1 or 2 more years, Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards of all time, comes in, right? And people start questioning, how's this Houston offense going to run with Chris Paul, another guy who's obviously ball dominant, pretty good shooter. But Harden at this point was almost averaging close to like a triple-double, like 26, 8, and 9 or something. Chris Paul comes in. They're really good for, I think it was 2 or 3 years that he's there. 2 years for sure. Mm-hmm. Signs that massive extension when he comes off the trade from the Clippers. And they take Golden State that year to a Game 7. Chris Paul gets hurt, doesn't play. I think he had a hamstring injury.
Game 6,
right?
Yeah, he got injured.
And you could argue if he was healthy, like a lot of people think they could have beaten Golden State.
I think he got hurt Game
6. I want to say Game 5.
I think it was Game 5, and he missed the last 2. And they were up in the series 3-2.
So we can't say that, they didn't have their shot. That was probably the best team that Houston has had since Harden's been there. Mm-hmm. So 1 more year goes, they get bounced last year in this year in embarrassing fashion to the Lakers, but the year before was pretty bad. I'm trying to recall
Harden's, I think they lost.
Oh, the Spurs was bad. Remember the Spurs series where he really went to bed and people were thinking that there was some kind of fix with him.
And the year that the Kevin Durant injury happened in that series against Golden State 2 years ago when Durant won.
Yes.
So they thought that they were going to win that series, but again, even without Durant, they still weren't able to beat the Golden State. They actually got beat, I believe. I don't know if it was even a game. Might have been even in Game 6 in Houston where they got bounced. I don't even remember if that went to 7 games.
Yes.
They got bounced by a pretty injury ravaged Warriors team at that point, because I believe there was other situations that were happening with the team. And then last year with Russell.
That's what I say. So fast forward. So now Dwight Howard's come in, didn't work, and Harden gets a pass. Then Chris Paul comes in, like I said. I think it's pretty easy. He's a top 3 point guard of all time.
I would say
1 of the 50 greatest players of all time.
I would say so.
And now it's like, okay, this is not the second guy that hasn't worked out. There's been a few well documented scraps that they had on the bench where they're yelling at each other, gives them the thing, and he puts down the props. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, who else can we bring in? Q was Russell Westbrook. With 1 or 2 years off winning MVP, averaging a triple double. Mm-hmm. Now the trade was also a bit of an albatross. Not only do you get Westbrook supermax, similar contract to Chris Paul and Westbrook, but you also throw in 2 first-round picks, right? Which what everybody's kind of like, what's going on there? Now you're getting a guy that can't shoot and ball dominant, where at least Chris Paul could shoot the ball and he was a leader. Mm-hmm. We all know what happened last year. Russell Westbrook had one of the worst statistically shooting seasons for like that kind of a usage rate player of all time.
I would agree.
And after, I believe they might have won Game 1 against the Lakers. If not, they were tied 1-1.
No, they did win. The Lakers lost the Game 1s in the first
Portland
2 series.
And
then they beat them 4 straight in the rest.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I was like, okay, you know what? Like maybe this 3 ball will work. The Lakers might not have this. They don't have the same shooting as Houston does. I was like, let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out too well. So what happens now? Now it's getting to the point where it's like you brought in 3 superstars, 3 Hall of Famers. All 3 of those guys, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, and Westbrook, going to be Hall of Famers, playing with James Harden. Nothing works out. So now I'm just trying to get into Harden's head, because we know now, fast forward, he's demanded a trade pretty much. Mm-hmm. Didn't show up to training camp. didn't have the decency to say anything leading up to training camp. You bring in John Wall, you bring in Boogie Cousins, Christian Wood, like all these guys. You're a new coach. You're like, you know what? Let's run this back, see how things gonna go. The guys have the decency to say, hey, you know what? Let's try one more year. And I feel like now he's almost embarrassed of his playoff performances, which have been a joke.
Been pretty bad.
A joke.
Yeah.
And now he's shown the NBA world that he can't win with another superstar on his team. So what can the guy do? Is he a stat guy for the regular season? Playoff comes and he wets the bed. So now I feel like he's trying to be like a second or third fiddle in Brooklyn, or like a team like he'd never go to the Lakers, but like the writing's on the wall. He knows that he can't win by himself as a top dog, which a lot of guys can't. But he's an MVP, and he forces Houston's hand where it's like the whole time when Morey was there and everything, he pretty much, I feel like, orchestrated the trades for all these players. They're all like, okay, you don't want Chris Paul? Sure, we'll do whatever it takes to get rid of him. You want Russell Westbrook? Sure. And now after he's forced all these hands, nobody's ever told him no before, he demands a trade and he's sitting there pouting, being like, trade me and wherever I want to go. And I feel like for a team that, did whatever he wanted, he turned down $100 million for 2 years. I'm just looking now and I'm like, shame on you, because you really effed up the whole situation for the Rockets. And anytime you trade a superstar, you're getting pennies on the dollar too.
Well, I mean, I think it's a guy that, if you look at the current situation, Houston looks like it's, not that Morey's going, and, it's sinking ship, and you lost D'Antoni. It's a whole new situation. It looks like a sunken ship, or one that's looking like it's going to be a rebuild soon. And then you look at what Harden, and funny enough, like I did actually, not even before when I was doing the whole thing at Sportsnet, I actually ran into James Harden a couple of years ago. Funny enough, I go out.
Was it in a club?
Actually, no. It was actually at a bar. Actually, when I was out in New York celebrating.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
It was basically a batch. A groomsmen type dinner, and we went out afterwards. And James Harden was literally in the booth next to us. And again, it was a low key spot, so never would I have thought that James Harden would have been there. It wasn't anything that was like magnificent or anything. And his personality caught me very off guard, because not like I was watching the man all night, but the way that he was, very nonchalant. Like, I mean, I've been in the presence of guys like Kobe Bryant and then other guys that you can sort of be in their presence and be like, oh, this guy's a winner. There's an aura. I didn't feel that aura with James. James just looked like a type of guy that knows that he's got the talent. He sort of, in all honesty, he kind of reminded me, and again, though I never met Vince face to face, he has that situation where you can see he has all the talent, but does he have that next level to get to that next echelon? And this is a guy that, again, has been in MVP conversations, but when it comes to the playoffs, when things get tough, that's when you see the mettle of someone come out. Again, I don't want to get into discussions of who ends up being top dog in the playoffs, because then we'll get on another diatribe and so forth. But James didn't have that aura. And if you look at the current situation, so let's see the destinations that he wants. He wants to go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn has no, like, if I'm Houston, besides, again, Kyrie or Durant, they have no one on their roster that I would, even a package of a situation, maybe whether it be LeVert, Dinwiddie,
Harris,
Harris, they're not going to. Harris is just signed, so he can't even get traded. Allen, you got DeAndre Jordan, Jared Allen. That package doesn't do anything for me for a guy that's at the top level talent. The Philly situation, which is another option that he's sort of given, if you can get Ben Simmons for him at the end of the day, and you think that Ben's going to be something, he's younger. James is already turning 30. He's getting to that point where in a couple of years he's not going to be the player that he is. He's got 2 years left. They have all the leverage. And at the end of the day, you don't just give him away for scraps, even if he is a problem, because again, that sends the wrong message that you're sending. Other
player empowerment, which we can get into.
Milwaukee. Okay, are you gonna? What are you gonna? Middleton. What are you gonna send over there? This is a team that you're gonna bank on Harden if he doesn't mesh well with Giannis.
And it wouldn't be the first time they didn't mesh with someone.
Wouldn't be that. And again, remember, Giannis doesn't even like James. Remember, he took that shot at the All-Star.
At each other, yeah. And James was like, if I was 7 feet tall, then I could do that too.
That is not gonna work. That's not gonna fly. Yeah. And then you have Miami. So who's Miami going to trade there? You're not trading Bam. Bam's young and up and coming.
Tyler Hero would have to be on the table.
But again, Tyler Hero, shout out to that song by Jack Harlow. It's a good song at the end of the day. But
People are really high on him. I like the guy as a player, but
he's not a guy that you trade James Harden for in a situation. You would maybe
would you take that package over the Nets package?
I mean,
like if you're going to get, like, let's say 3 first Tyler Hero and maybe Dragic or something like that.
again, and Dragic just signed too, and then again, he signed in a situation where like he wants to
1 year
be in
deal.
Miami. And again, I don't know how much value you're gonna get. You probably want Duncan Robinson. We probably want. You would need to get Olynyk to match salaries, things along that nature. It wouldn't be the best of packages. You can get a better. Heck, the Raptors can give them a better package if the Raptors. If you want to, you have to give them. I wouldn't do Siakam
or OG in a first.
I wouldn't give him OG either.
I wouldn't either.
Especially for a guy that hasn't proven that without any massive amounts of talent that he can be a winner.
Yeah.
And so what's Houston to do? At the end of the day,
what would you do if you're GM?
I'd stick to my guns. Again, the problem if he's sticking to the guns, the guy plays awful. He's going to sink his trade value. Same thing that Vince was. I'm not going to dunk anymore. He started quitting the team, plays or whatever, and so forth. So but again, the other teams know that you're sort of
distressed asset
in a distressed asset. So they're not going to give you market value for a guy that they think you're going to get on the cheap. If he goes to Brooklyn, and we're going to get to that situation in a bit, that will not work out. That's not going to work. I feel bad. I was thinking about this on the way here. I already feel bad for Steve Nash. Steve Nash is in a no-win situation. I was high.
Title or bust, really,
I was
for those
high.
guys, right?
I was high on their opportunity, on what they might be able to achieve. But what I'm looking at is you got two, and if you had Harden, that would make three. You have two guys in Durant and Kyrie, who again we can give Durant his props on getting his titles with Golden State. He went on to a super team, but these are very fickle superstars, fickle-minded in my opinion. Like Durant lets things get to him on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's a guy that at the end of the day is easily
irritated.
You can get at him.
Yeah.
Lord knows we're going to talk about Kyrie in a bit. That's another disaster. You add Harden to that thing, Steve Nash has got absolutely no chance. There's not enough ball to go around for one, and they're all in their own heads that they believe that whatever they want to believe. And to me, again, I would just stick to my guns. If he plays terribly, so be it. He is at the end of the day, he's also 30 years old. He's only got a few, again,
3-4 years of.
Is he gonna at 35? Is James Harden gonna be the player that he is now?
The thing is, his game isn't built on explosiveness, so it should age better than the guy that.
But he's also not a physical beat. His shooting's all right. He's a volume shooter at the end of the day. So again, is he gonna be a decent player? Sure, but again, for the headaches that it's bringing, and the guy again. You look at, we go back to the Brooklyn situation. Those are guys that have been in situations where you can make the claim that even Durant, you can make the claim that maybe Durant was the top guy in Golden State, or was that Curry's team, or was Curry coming off an MVP series, was that Curry's team? You can make that claim. Kyrie, I've talked about that a number of times, and James seems to be in the same situation where he's a good regular season or a great regular season player, but come the playoffs where where are you? And that's the issue that you're gonna have. So what are you gonna do in Houston? You buckle down and you try to mend fences. And if it doesn't work out, you see how he plays and take it from there. You're still not gonna get the value. Again, I don't think you're gonna get Aaron Williams, and
no, that's a colossal.
I could get more on PlayStation, like Jalen Rose said about Vince.
Yeah.
But you're still gonna get some value for the guy. So I would say play it out, see how it goes.
What do you mean play it out? Like.
He's got a 2-year, and again, I'm tired of guys, and I'm getting tired of guys. At the end of the day, they sign big money, and then this goes to
Paul George.
Oh man,
we're gonna get into that. Yeah,
guys like that basically say, you know what, I want
to retire here.
I want to retire, and then basically you put the team under the team builds stuff around you, and all of a sudden things don't go well, and now you quit on the team. I'm getting tired of stuff like that. It's an entitlement, just like we're gonna get to Kyrie in a bit. An entitlement situation where
you don't see it in any other sport.
But you don't see in other situations sometimes you kind of see depending on it's a personality of the individuals, and that's what's coming to light in a lot of these situations. With what's going on, and again, Harden is the same situation. The team was built around him. It didn't work. The coach, again, you go from
the fault is on Harden.
It's not nobody else. D'Antoni went from being a head coach to I think an assistant coach this year.
Well, he didn't want the stress anymore. He goes, "I'll go with Steve Nash and held the clipboard."
And there you go. So D'Antoni went from being a guy that was sought out as a thing, and that he just doesn't want to deal with. He didn't want to stay and deal with anymore. Was problems.
You can't blame him.
And that's the issue. So where's Harden going to go? To me, the best solution is Philly. Philly will get him. Ben Simmons can't shoot. Ben Simmons might be still one of the better defenders and have some explosive close to the rim. Philly, that is pretty much on their last legs anyways. Sooner or later, they're going to have to if it doesn't work this year, and they made some improvements, but we'll see how that plays out. If the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid experiment doesn't work, one of them has to go, and I think you move Simmons. And if you can get a guy like Harden, that can again maybe work and complement more with Embiid. Now again, Embiid's got a bad attitude too half the time. So how's that gonna go? But you're gonna have to roll the dice on some of those things.
Okay, so what are you doing if you're the GM? Like, what are you doing? Are you forcing a trade?
I'm not forcing it. I'm not forcing anything. I'm making sure that he doesn't go to any more of these parties with the baby or little baby or small baby or whatever the heck the guy's name was. And I'm basically telling him that you got a contract and you're gonna play it out. And again, see how he performs.
So force him to come back and play, or whatever it is.
Here's the thing: you're not gonna deal for spare parts because again, I think it's already come out. Either you give us one of Kyrie or Durant or Harden's going anywhere. Why would you give up a superstar player in Houston? And again, maybe
under contract for 2 more years.
And again, maybe those I don't even know how many the Nets first rounders the next couple of years aren't going to be valuable at all because again they should be one of the better teams if again they play to their potential. You're not getting high end.
You need a third team, maybe a three-way
This isn't one of those Boston situations where they give him Pierce and Garnett and then Boston's in the top 5 for 3 or 4 years. You're not getting that at the end of the day. So I stick to my guns. You give me a guy like Simmons, a guy like Embiid, a star that I can build because again,
I just don't think they're going to get that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to get that in the trade.
Then you dig in and try to get Harden onto the same page. It's his team and what you got now again. John Wall's coming in. I don't know how that's going to work. Wall hasn't played basketball in 2 years.
I just saw some highlights. He looks okay. Apparently, he's had a good start. It's very early, but him and Cousins look good.
Again, you got Cousins with Wall, and again,
you have a few guys that are motivated.
If you're in Houston, maybe you can build something off of Wall and Cousins. Again, Cousins, you don't know what that leg's going to be like. Wall's also been injury prone like crazy. And maybe
Woods looked good last year in Detroit.
Yeah, you still got Eric Gordon. You still got some parts.
Yeah.
Again, the whole Covington thing. I'm surprised they sort of dealt him. I thought he played reasonably well.
Tried to salvage some picks.
And again, so they're changing the style of the team and see how it pans out. I would give it a look see to see how Wall is with Harden. And again, it's not like they'll be competitive. Will they make the playoffs? I would say they're a borderline playoff team. I mean, Phoenix got a lot better. I think with acquiring Chris Paul, Oklahoma City will obviously dash down because they pretty much got rid of everybody. So there's be some teams that'll challenge in there. But overall, you stick to your guns and you don't trade them for scraps. No way.
So if I'm the GM, I'm getting and if he comes back to Houston, it's not gonna this is not gonna end well. I don't think at all. No matter what happens, whether he gets traded, whether they hold on to him. Now, if I'm the GM, I don't remember who is because Maury's gone. I'm kind of forcing the hand of you don't want to come play for us. We're gonna fine you.
Sure.
We're not paying you. You're under contract to play for this team. We're playing hardball at this point.
Absolutely.
Right? You've like I've said before, you forced so many trades that and I listened to Simmons, he was talking to Bill Simmons, he's been a crybaby for how long? Maybe not publicly, but this guy doesn't work, I want this. No. We've done nothing in the playoffs except that 1 year Chris Paul was here. You don't want to report? You're not getting paid. You don't care about money? That's cool. We get less stuff in return? I don't care. But we're not going to give into this player empowerment where guys, whether it be Anthony Davis, and the list goes on, Jimmy Butler, who I love, all these guys that start sulking because a bit of adversity comes, you're under it's not like you're a free agent in 2 months.
And the Spurs did the same thing with Kawhi.
Kawhi, which was talked about too. All this stuff, all these guys that, and like I said, it's only in basketball. You don't see it in football. You don't see it in hockey. You don't see it in baseball. Who throws these tantrums where it's like, you know what, I'm too good for this situation, essentially. You need to get me out of here. Well, that doesn't fly anywhere.
It's egos. It's massive egos that you have in the NBA. And again,
it's that and there's so few skilled guys that are at that level. Right?
And it's happened in the NFL a couple of times with a few guys that have tried to coax guys out of situations, and then they're not happy with particular situations. But it's few and far in between. The NBA does have that problem.
Big problem. We saw with Vince firsthand. And we saw what happens when the assets.
I personally don't blame Vince, but we'll probably get into that in a later segment.
You don't blame Vince for quitting on the team?
No. So again, in terms of that situation, the problem there, and again looking at it in a big picture, and there's we watch the Carter Effect, it's all on Netflix. Overall, do I blame Vince for what happened in the situation? And in terms of the quote unquote quitting on the team?
If you want to ask for a trade, but he literally quit on the team.
Again, the situation is that the organization went in a way that Vince didn't really enjoy, and he was absolutely right. And again, they have it on. I forget who was the guy, Richard Petty. If you watch the documentary, Richard Petty's like, Vince was absolutely right in what happened. And Richard Petty goes back.
Wanting a better team.
That the whole Vince situation started with basically the whole search when Glenn Grunwald was out as GM. who was going to be the next GM. Vince wanted the opportunity for Dr. J to get in there and try to get the job. They gave it to Rob Babcock, and that because Vince wasn't again
consulted,
and we see that a lot about that this
and
would
now
start
that's but exactly, and now but that, I honestly think it's one thing to ask them and still make a decision or run something by someone, but when like the GM is not even the GM anymore, and you have LeBron or someone else calling the shots now, whether it's working or whether it's not. I don't think that's how you run a franchise in any sport.
And while I agree with in certain circumstances, when you at least would probably and again it's you would ask the star the star athlete and the star of the team to be like, so what do you think, and because you're building the team around Vince, that was the main attraction. And overall, we can play what ifs, but Vince was right. You look at the Rob Babcock era; it was horrific.
The draft, the trade.
There's no way you're telling me that Dr. J would have done a worse job.
Okay, but bring this back to Houston, because to get back to Harden, is there anything that they did that you can look at and be like, they failed to give him adequate players? The answer, I think, is no.
Well, I think they failed to. They went with some kind of. I think Daryl Morey got in his head with a lot of what he wanted to do with this small ball type thing, and I never thought that was going to work.
I don't think the small ball has anything to do with it. They had the talent. I just think James Harden went.
Did they have the talent though? To really, let's say,
they almost beat Golden State, who's arguably the best team of all time.
But and that's an accurate.
I think it ends there.
And again, maybe in another era without the Golden State teams, they probably would have reached the specific heights. But then again, you still have remember that Harden breakdown in San Antonio.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So, at this point, you can't look at the GM and say, "Hey, Morey, you failed to get me good enough players to get to the next level," because we saw proof that they could have done that.
Yeah.
James Harden was just terrible for maybe half of the basketball games, and I think that's when you look in the mirror and say, "Hey, you know what? Like, if your boss is not giving you the tools to succeed, then you'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm doing everything I can. Like, we can't keep up with the demand or whatever it is."
Mm-hmm.
But for the 10th time, he just was not. He wasn't the same player in the playoffs that he was in the regular season, and I think that's the end of the conversation.
And again,
he needs to look himself in the mirror and be like, hey, you know what? I effed up. And no player would ever say this because they don't have the balls to do it, but they'd be like, hey, you know what? This is on me. Let's bring someone else in. Let's run this back because I owe this team another 2 years of contract, which I signed.
And he's in an era where the situation and the teams that are around him, like, to me, Houston was up there as one of the favorites, but they were never a clear cut. Going to make the finals guaranteed based off team.
But look at Lillard, for example. I'm just thinking of another guy. Lillard got paid. He got paid just like, it's not like he didn't get paid. So he's getting paid. Mm-hmm. Same as all those other guys. Same as Harden. Same as Westbrook. That's what I'm saying. Who would you rather have?
In terms of who I think would do better, in succeeding.
Let's say you're a GM. Would you rather have Harden right now or Lillard?
I think Harden's the better scorer, but overall player, I'll probably take Dame.
Yeah, he's a better attitude.
Because of his mentality and his attitude.
Would you rather take Dame or Kyrie? Like, this is.
That's Dame without
That's
question.
What I'm saying. Like, even if you want to compare, like, even Beal.
There's been success in the playoffs with teams that, at the end of the day, that. The Trailblazers were another team that had some talent, but they were never the clear-cut favorites.
They're underdogs in all the series. They still competed.
Even that Oklahoma series where
they sent Paul George packing.
They sent Paul George packing. I think that was when the 1-2-3 Cancun thing started.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Like they weren't favorites in that series based off the talent that the Oklahoma City team had. So again, he's done more with less. And to me, CJ McCollum's a good player. Nurkic in there. But he's never had a guy that you can consider a top 10 player.
We said this before. They're almost like the Raptors of the West of all time, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I guess that does it for James Harden. Like I said, I would let the guy sit, bring down not even like trade value, but just like what people think of him. And I think like a lot of people don't really know too much about the partying if you're a casual NBA fan. And I don't want to get into work ethic because we don't know, but like the guy's had questions about his body before, the work that he's put in. He's coming out of shape at times. Has he been an MVP candidate at all times? Pretty much. And he's an Iron Man. He plays.
Talented player.
But similar to I guess he's maybe one of the few options. Like, how many guys do you think want to be like, I want to go play with James Harden now after everything that's transpired? The list is a lot smaller than it used to be.
Definitely not Giannis. Even though again, and he put him in Milwaukee out there. I don't get that, considering they were just either having a good time with each other, but that looked like Giannis. When you take a dig at that,
I think he's just trying to win a championship.
I don't think that would work because again, Harden would take too much of the ball out of Giannis' hands. It would make Giannis an afterthought at times. So that wouldn't work.
All right, so I let James Harden sit and then embarrass himself. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you don't want to play for us?
Like I said,
Houston, just run with the team you have. You're not going to win a championship anyways. Sit down.
Like I said, they were again, depending on the situation, they're borderline to even make the playoffs at this point.
Okay, so we're gonna get into a guy that I think we both used to like, but we've kind of changed everything. Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie
not used to like. I was never on the Kyrie train.
Never.
Kyrie, I've said this numerous times when that special correspondent was here too. Kyrie to me has always been a guy that was riding shotgun, and again, it goes into a point where, and I've seen and I hear the comments that he makes about people being closers and taking shots at LeBron.
Big talk, yeah.
But also guys in Boston and so forth. Let's
what
be
have
honest.
you done?
What is the man? In all honesty, without that LeBron James season in 2016, where again he played a heck of a game 6 or it was no game 7 where he hit the shot. Again, he's a talented
You can't take that away from him.
Can't take that away. But as the big dog, as the leader of a team, and I've made this.
He's the furthest thing from a leader. The furthest.
That's what I'm getting at. At the end of the day, he's the type of guy, and I made that same reference to Kevin Love, that without LeBron there, he's had no success. He's literally had no success. Like he got it again as a rookie.
Playoff success. Playoff success.
No, not any success really, because the Boston situation, he wasn't there because he was injured. So I'm not giving him any credit for that. There's nothing else that really goes.
Just as a scorer, he's still like obviously an accomplished scorer.
Yeah, he got injured a couple of years.
He's always
injured.
Yeah.
Again, you go in, so he gets drafted by Cleveland. They're absolutely terrible for his whole regime there. LeBron comes in. They still had the first overall pick with Wiggins that year, so they were still awful. LeBron comes in. They get Love. Compare him with Kyrie. All of a sudden, he becomes a winner, and then all of a sudden, can't play with LeBron. I'm in the shadow, and he wants to be the big dog. He wants to be the big dog. And then again, Cleveland gets hosed in that Isaiah Thomas situation because Isaiah's already damaged goods.
But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that trade because what Kyrie said, and this goes back to the player empowerment thing, is he wanted out so bad. Remember, he pretty much said trade me, and it didn't come out publicly yet, but I think that it got through enough intel that it kind of gone through podcasts and people knew that Kyrie wanted out. So all of a sudden they trade him for a damaged Isaiah Thomas and a first round pick, which they ended up taking their current
player. Which we at the beginning thought that might be a decent trade for the Cavs.
Because we didn't think Isaiah was going to be that bad coming off injury either.
And he was and he's never recovered ever since.
But what happened was he threatened them and he said, if you guys don't trade me, I'm going to have this arthroscopic knee surgery and be out for 2 months. Which when you think about that, you're being blackmailed by
that's what he does every year anyway. So what's
he
the
hijacks.
difference?
That's what I'm saying. But that just set the tone for having that point. Whatever he won, he was on a bad team and he lost. Fine, he got his stats. LeBron came, so he won the championship with LeBron as the second guy. Hits a big shot. So that's that was the peak of his career. He'll never. Unless he wins 2 championships with Brooklyn, he'll never get to that. He's been injured since. He's had questionable character issues. Flat Earth. Calling out everything. That's an understatement of the year. And then what happens yesterday or today, he ends up saying, so he gets fined for not talking to the media and says, I'm not talking with pawns. Go before.
So first and foremost, and the first thing when I saw that, overall, I'm like, so you're not talking with pawns. It's part of your job, by the way. Yeah. At the end of the day, first and foremost, it's disrespectful to the same things to the reporters, because at the end of the day, not some of the reporters, even guys there've been people that actually have played in the game, and not everyone's just never played in the NBA. Guys you can say that guys maybe Reggie Miller and other guys that might interview guys, they're not pawns. And again, who is he to call a pawn anyways?
Exactly.
I made the thing is without, so we want to play chess here. Without a king, you've been a pawn your entire career. Let's be real.
A rook at least, not a pawn.
Well, again, let's say, but what's successful? Again, the pawns are the ones that have pretty much the least amount of success, and you sacrifice them. Take away the king from Kyrie's chessboard. What's he achieved? He's a talented pawn, but what has he achieved?
You could say the same thing for Anthony Davis. I don't think he ever won a playoff series. Arguably the most talented player in the league.
Okay, but at the end of the day,
another guy who's been injury prone forever.
True, you can make that claim, but he's actually hold on. Anthony Davis has gone to playoffs.
Never. I don't think he's won a series though.
But again, the teams withdrew again. He was always in series where he wasn't the quote unquote favorites. Kyrie never even made it to a playoff series. And when Boston made that run where LeBron took him out in 2017, yes, 2017. He wasn't even on that Boston team. He was watching from afar, and they played better without him.
Yep.
The Nets last year played
Once
better.
he went down, they
played better without him. Now the Raptors swept them, but they were on COVID lists. They were injured.
Yeah, the bubble was different.
They had bums walking off the street that were playing. Yeah, they were basically playing with guys that they were like 11th or 12th options that were playing starter minutes. The Raptors wiped the floor with them because they really should have at the end of the day. But calling people again, this is a guy that at the end of the day believes that he's
the king of the world.
He thinks he's the king of the world. He believes that he is owed something, that he's entitled to what. And again, he wanted the players not to play in the bubble. He wasn't going to play anyway. So what the hell did he care? He was telling guys not to show up because of what was going on. And maybe he had the best intentions of the whole Black Lives Matter and all that other stuff. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. He wasn't going to be there anyways. So you telling other guys not to go do things when you're not going to be putting yourself out there anyways because you knew you weren't going to be able to play, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyways, first thing first, poor Steve Nash. Steve Nash seems like one of the guys that is so relaxed and so chill. How is he going to handle? And I don't know how he even chose that job. I'm guessing he believes that.
Durant and Durant, I think, are a little bit close. Yeah.
Again, and these is two fickle-minded superstars. This to me has all the makings of a worse situation than what the Clippers just went through.
Oh, okay.
And I'm talking about the Nets are.
I don't know if the players hate those guys as much as
they will, and you can already. They will, and you know they will. It's about the Boston guys didn't hate him either.
I don't think, but Durant's not gonna call Durant's not gonna want special treatment or move the practice. But Kyrie, Kyrie, I don't think anybody's gonna like Kyrie. But I think that Durant, the thing with Durant is there's a lot of respect, even though like you said, like. He's a bit of a prima donna. He's very sensitive, cool, but at least the guy can walk the walk, can talk the talk.
Again, and
Kyrie's not that guy.
That'll be another, and this year, and again, who knows again how he's going to come back from those injuries. This will be these couple of years will be a legacy year for Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant a guy that can lead someone to a championship as the main dog? Yes, Kyrie. Again, you don't know what you're going to get out of Kyrie.
And Brooklyn has all the right secondary pieces. They have a pretty good team.
Again, LeVert, and I don't know if they're going to keep those guys.
Harris looks legit. Jared,
they have opportunity, but is it's going to be how the team meshes in terms of what they're going to do. And again, looking at the combustible elements there, I'm not going to put money on it. I don't because the season hasn't even started, and he's already a problem. If they actually were to play properly and actually as a team,
how do you think things are going to play out?
They could again. They should be finishing the top four based off of talent. But yeah, we don't say easy because we also thought that
Milwaukee's really
take a step down and that didn't happen and a lot of other shit. There in terms of chemistry and so forth. And again, we're saying fourth. Kyrie gets injured every year. His legs, this and that.
They're probably better without him, though.
Who knows if he makes it?
Durant is the big question.
Durant's the big question. But even that, okay, so if you add Durant to that lineup solo without Kyrie, are they a huge threat now? Not in my opinion.
If you don't have Kyrie, you don't have Durant.
No, if it's Durant by himself with the rest of the pieces and no Kyrie, are they a legitimate threat to make the finals now? Not even with no Kyrie. Oh, yeah. So Durant and the rest of those guys like Allen, I don't think that gives them, again, obviously they're better than what they were. But that's
who would you say behind LeBron is the guy most capable of taking any team and bringing them to the finals? I think it's Durant. Obviously,
pure talent, sure, but
off of anything.
But remember, you're also taking, and let's be honest, Durant had a lot of the same issues that James Harden had. Let's be real here. Besides, when he literally did one of the most snake moves of all time, where he got beat by a team that he was leading. By the way, I think it was 3-1 in that series, and he joined Golden State.
But once again, arguably, if not number one, the second best team of all time.
Yeah, and he was able to make it to the finals with Harden and Westbrook in there and so forth. So he's had some success, but he also had this whole stigma on that he was always coming up short, and he wanted to win the championships. So there's an element to that in that regard. So they should, based off talent, they should do quite well. Would I have them as favorites in the East right now? No, because I haven't seen them play. We can make all these assumptions and we made all of these assumptions about the Clippers, and then we found out that was fool's gold for whatever it was.
We can talk about the Clippers later, but
Kyrie's a problem.
With this. How do you think if let's say they're both healthy or whatever, they both play 80% of the games.
They'll be 80%. I would say they probably finish. I still think Milwaukee will finish ahead of them. Again, the Raptors,
Miami, 76ers.
I would say that they would probably. I would say Boston will finish ahead of them. And I would say I'll take, based off what I saw, I think they would probably maybe third or fourth with Miami. And then that goes from there.
You think Philly's going to be like fifth?
Again, based off,
I think Philly got a lot better.
Did they?
They got shooting, which is really
well.
Really
Again, they
bringing Steph Curry.
Well, again, that was basically which is JJ Redick from the year before.
Yeah.
Very similar stuff.
Yeah.
They got lost Richardson. They still had the Tobias Harris problem. They got rid of Horford. I don't know. Depends on how they remesh.
So let's say you think that they can make it to the East Final or no? Like
again, without watching and seeing, again, I wouldn't bet on it based on the fact that these situations, wherever he's at, and until he proves to me,
Kyrie,
absolutely.
But he did it with LeBron, right?
But again,
he didn't just get to the finals.
Here's the situation, and then again, special correspondent, and you're not.
He's gone,
and you're not the biggest fan either. At the end of the day.
But I'm a realist. LeBron is like top 3 player all time. Yeah.
But and the one thing that at the end of the day that Kyrie didn't like about LeBron, and one of the reasons he wanted out is
attention.
LeBron. No, and LeBron kept his butt in check. That's the reality. Is when you're playing with LeBron, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about
Dwight Howard was a good example.
He's a guy that keeps guys in check. When you know you're playing with LeBron, he expects certain things out of you, and if you don't deliver, he's on your ass, which is exactly what Kyrie didn't like. What other reasons would you want to leave on a situation where you're having success if you just can't handle the personality of someone putting? Now, is Durant going to keep him in check? His best buddy, another guy that's massively fickle? I don't think so. Is Steve Nash, again,
nice guy,
Canadian legend, Hall of Famer, whatever, an MVP, and all, nice guy. Is that a guy that I think is going to, if Kyrie's acting like an idiot, he's going to step in and throw it down with no coaching experience, really? No. I still, again, even when Steve got the job, I was happy for him, another Canadian coach and so forth. Nice guy, they want to see him do well. I thought, this is like going into the Lions then because of what you might, no experience, and you're dealing with no experience, and you're dealing with a situation where you have two guys that if a guy goes on about Twitter, like, the Durant thing is weird because at the end of the day, he should have the type of, and he looks like a guy that when he's playing the game, he's an absolute killer out there. But he's so fickle mentality-wise that he lets the smallest things get to him. What do you care that a 12-year-old calls you names on social media? Like it boggles my mind that a grown man that's making that kind of money can absolutely go off. And he got burner accounts, and he's been proven to have burner accounts. Like, don't go on social media if you can't handle it. There's nothing wrong with not having a Twitter account or not going on any of that because it causes problems. And again, say what you want. At the end of the day, like everyone again. Kyrie doesn't want to speak to the media, so what does he do? He goes on his Instagram, and that's what he posts. Is that guy not a guy that likes having the spotlight shined on by the media, and then you don't want to talk to the media?
And I said this quote before, and it's so true. Kyrie's the kind of guy that will try and convince you he's the smartest guy in the room at all times, when really he's the furthest thing from it. And that gets back to the whole flat earth thing, him trying to know everything about basketball. And at one point, you just feel like saying, like I said, it's not. All players have, like, you come into the league, you need to prove yourself. Then you kind of like, your character comes out, and you kind of, the same as Harden. At one point, you not expose yourself, but you are who you are as a basketball player, as a person, as a personality. So Kyrie's come out as like, he won a title with LeBron, let's say, right? And then like since then, like you said, what's he done? He's been injured. He's ran his mouth. He's played on teams that have been better without him, 2 teams, and now it's like you need to show us that you're even a of like that ulcer that you were, or else your career's done.
He's run himself out of 2 teams already.
Exactly.
And the Boston team, looking at the situation, the talent that they had, if they had been able to make that work, they would have been. And again, I think with a healthy Kyrie, would LeBron have made it to those finals if he was was playing and they were having some chemistry? I don't think so, because again, Kyrie can be a difference maker because he's got one of the best handles that I think I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
He's got talent.
He can drop 50 any night.
At the end of the day, it's not being in a politics type sense. Shut up and dribble, man. Just stay all out of other crap and just go out and get your game, talk to the media, and give them their little 2 sound bites and get out. Again, this is a situation where he's not a rookie anymore. He should know this by now. This isn't one of those rookies coming into the league and having a bad personality, D'Angelo Russell problems where he's filming guys cheating on their girlfriends and stuff and putting it on social media. This is a grown man that's been in the league for a long time, still acting like a petulant child. And I'm telling you, he's gonna run down another team. It might not be today, and it's already starting. He's gonna run and pour Steve.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Brooklyn. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back. Igor wants to talk greatest Raptor of all
Oh,
time.
boy.
We're gonna do that. Stay tuned, guys.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's put it over there.
Welcome back, guys. On the block, December 11th, 2020. Joe Ferrari, Igor Henriquez. So what we're doing now is Igor kind of stirred the pot. You want to talk about this? Greatest Raptor of all time. Got the Raptors cap here. So really, I think there's only really, I would say 5 guys in consideration. You mentioned the 6. In no specific order. Clearly, I'll just say Chris Bosh first. Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Vince Carter, and then you said Stoudemire,
I
which
mean,
I think
again,
Stoudemire is probably the 6th.
Stoudemire again had the original impact when we again won Rookie of the Year, the whole Mighty Mouse thing and so forth. He had some fanfare here, so I would put him on the list. I wouldn't put him in the top 5 or anything, but he deserves some kind of honorable mention consideration.
Okay, so he gets honorable mention. Let's start from 5. Who would you say that you'd put 5th?
Okay, so if we're looking at the situation now, the first thing that we have to talk about is,
Criteria.
and here's the issue that, and again, I get a lot of slack on Twitter, at Iggy Henny, just in case you want to follow me.
In case you want to clap back at
In case you want to clap back at me after about this. So the criteria keeps getting changed in this conversation. And every person that I discuss this with gives me different criteria of what greatest Raptor of all time should be. When we're talking about the greatest NBA players of all time, we base this off of a few things. One of them that comes right to the forefront is talent, impact, championships, all that gets to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
For some odd reason, now greatest player of all time gets that, but greatest Raptor of all time doesn't get this. And to me,
So what do they get then?
the reason that that's done, because it's the conversation's tailored so that one individual in particular ends up getting a ton of the credit. And here's the thing. And again, number 5, we want to go into it. I won't give Kyle number 5 because again, Kyle has been here. I would say number 5 would probably go to Chris Bosh if I had to really go on.
We agree with that. Yeah.
I would go Chris Bosh. At the end of the day, Bosh had his, he has MVPs.
He's here for about 5 or 6 years.
Never won a playoff series. Again, he was a guy that again was a solid piece to the franchise, an all-star, a nice player, but not a franchise changer in my opinion, but a nice player.
You think he's a Hall of Famer?
Me personally, again, he won the championships with LeBron as a third piece. If I talked about Chris, by his stats would say that he's a Hall of Famer. Do I consider him to be a Hall of Famer in my mentality? No, because maybe I have as you can see, I seem to have a higher standard than most people do. So, and again, if we want to get to number 4 and number 3, so my greatest Raptor of all time, and I'm gonna go.
Don't go there yet,
criteria.
man.
No.
Okay,
Let's
criteria. Okay.
My criteria for the greatest Raptor of all time is based off of a few select things. Same things that I look at when I'm talking about the greatest players of all time in terms of talent. So I go with talent, impact, and then everything else. Winning, and so forth. So if we're gonna go 4 and 3, in terms of, and as again on talent, impact, and so forth, it's to me you either install. I would say I would give DeMar number 4 and I would give Kyle number 3, based off of the criteria that I have.
Okay, so DeMar 4
and I would go with Kyle 3. Because I think Kyle now with what's happened recently has surpassed DeMar in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now my 1-2 is an interesting situation because I tend to even argue with myself in terms of what I do with the situation. So now let's get to Kyle at number 3. Kyle seemingly.
Do you want to do DeMar at 4 first?
Well, DeMar at the end of the day, DeMar was again had the longevity, a lot of some records in terms of points.
Yeah.
Again, but him, I see him and Kyle in a very similar light.
Yes.
And this is where I think I differ from a lot. And again, being that I've been around, being an older guy, I've been around from when the Raptors initially were here and to now. I think the biggest problem with the social media age is that a lot of these younger guys, these again, I'm not gonna shout them out, but the younger 20-year-olds never really experienced what it was like when Vince was here and the impact that Vince had, because they're used to the last decade of Kyle and DeMar. So that skews a lot of their teenagers. I don't know how much they were paying attention. That skews a lot, and that's a lot of the social media base are the younger guys between those ages and so forth. Now, a lot of the reporters again give it to Kyle as well. Here's where I take from DeMar and the Kyle situation, and we've been doing this show for a long time. It's been about 5, 6, 7 years. How many times did we come on here and have to groan and moan about the Raptors are doing some great things, the Raptors are going to be a threat, and how many times do we come on here and then they absolutely crap the bed, and I want to say the other word because I'm trying to keep PG, and what is the situation? Let's take the overall encompassing situation. You have two sweeps at the end, and this is I'm talking about the Kyle Lowry,
Kyle DeMar
led teams. Successful regular season teams, absolutely. Playoff wise, a bad loss to the Brooklyn Nets in that first round.
That was the first one. Yeah.
Again, probably should have won that series in my opinion. You get swept by a Washington team, which was not that great. And then you have embarrassing sweeps, especially the last one in 2017 to LeBron, who had literally a hobbled up Kevin Love and not much else.
That was round 2, right?
That was round 2 where they swept them, and LeBron hit the shots. And again, OG and Siakam are young guys. I can't blame them for any of that. It was a DeMar and Kyle led team. We got his leadership, his bulldog attitude, his defense, the bulldog. We gotta go to Cleveland. We gotta rumble. He rumbled for 5 points. That was and that's the quote. You want to use that? He rumbled for 5 points. That was literally the quote. Game 3, we got to go to Cleveland. We got to rumble. He rumbled for 5 points. That's the situation. We can laugh at all you want. His leader, he's got some good leadership qualities. He's a great defensive player. His talent level in comparison to Vince and Kawhi,
he's probably the 5th guy on that list in terms of God-given talent. Yeah.
And here's the thing.
That's fine.
So, without this 2018 championship that all of a sudden has now, put up Kyle in some other upper echelon. Let's be honest here. All honesty, without that trade from DeMar to Kawhi, that doesn't happen. Let's be honest. It doesn't happen. If it's Kyle leading that team against the Sixers, that does not go 7. They were so terrible in those first 3 or 4 games.
Fred, Kyle, all those guys.
They were all terrible. So again, you can say that Kawhi wasn't the be all and end all in that Raptors championship, but he was the main star.
Of course.
You can make the argument, and I will make the argument, that in the finals, that Kyle Lowry was the 4th best Raptor in the finals. And again,
minus the game 6 that
absolutely.
He had a big first quarter.
He had a great first quarter, absolutely. Give him full credit. But again, you have
Fred,
Kawhi.
Yeah.
Fred got MVP votes for one MVP. Siakam was better.
Getting one-on-one coverage.
He was doing great. Yeah. And then you had Kyle, who had some really good games, and then some other
with their worst defender usually.
Guarding him and so forth. So that's the situation that I have.
That's his legacy. Naming. He's a champion.
But see, here's the thing. He's a champion based,
Kyle Lowry.
And here's what I'm talking. This is why, and again, you might have a different opinion and so forth. To me, the legacy that Kyle Lowry had up until the Kawhi situation was a consistent underachiever. Every year they would make it to the playoffs, first seed, getting swept by a team that, again, LeBron James is a phenomenal player. To me,
they got embarrassed every year.
They got him again. They took him to 6 games that one year.
When we had Bismack.
I remember when they had Bismack. That was their best run. They were consistent underachievers. And again, we can take it this year. Let's be now the Brooklyn team, we discussed it earlier. That's a team that they should have beat. Me and you could have gotten some minutes. We could have gotten a couple buckets. They had guys again.
Jamal Crawford, I remember this time.
Yeah. We could have gotten some buckets. At the end of the day, then again, you're playing a Boston team that's very good, but you technically, and again, no home advantage. I understood. You're technically based off of the seedings, the higher seed. So technically, based off of that, you usually are the favorites.
It was a coin flip series.
But at the end of the day, they didn't win. And again, Pascal, whatever. Kyle had a great series. I will give him credit that he had some really great games. I give him full credit. And this is something to me that he's finally gone to he was another James Harden. He was but a much lower.
Yeah, the regular season lower,
Yeah, he was a much lower talent than James Harden because in the playoffs, he had his record was absolutely awful in the playoffs. He was under 500 for a team that was consistently top 4 in the East. So that's the beef that I have with this greatest player thing. It's at the end of the day, without that championship, and again, Masai, you're the man. I texted you when you won the chip. You texted me back. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. It was awesome.
The Knicks deal?
The Knicks deal in 2013. And again, you say that Kyle's a Hall of Famer. And Kyle himself hasn't admitted that deal was done. Kyle Lowry in 2013, about 7 years ago, was still at 28. He was still in his peak around that 27. So still as a peak basketball player, you're still in your prime. You're trading him to the Knicks
for a first round pick,
Meta World Peace, and Iman Shumpert. Meta World Peace, as you can see, Ron Artest was never the all there in situations. He was done. Iman Shumpert is a reserve player that
at that point he was a lottery pick that there was still maybe a bit of promise.
Yeah. But again, he ends up being a sixth man, seventh guy off the bench, a guy that again started with LeBron at times, but not a guy that you really rely on for much. And then the first round pick, you never know how those are going to pan out. Hall of Fame player.
It's interesting, like the whole, butterfly effect. What would happen if, let's say, Kyle Lowry went to New York? Nobody wins in New York. He'd have a different career, but
again, and he wouldn't be the greatest Raptor of all time. I'll tell you that much.
So you have him at 3, and to be honest, the only difference between Kyle and DeMar, other than obviously Kyle's a superior defender, like you said, they both were not themselves in the playoffs. That's a fact. They're not the same players in the playoffs, and Kyle just outlived DeMar here as a Raptor, so his numbers are more. He has a championship with Kawhi, which was a bit of destiny. So you have him at 3rd. And once again, I don't think I'm going to disagree with DeMar being at 4, really, and I'll put Kyle at 3rd.
So you agree? And the one thing I do want to say, and I get why the Raptors nation really fell in love with Kyle. And the reason being, it's that situation where you finally...
someone you can root for?
Not even that. I think it's the Raptors fan base that have had so many situations where they get a star player or at least an all-star level player, and they always leave, and you become so jaded that as soon as someone decides that they want to stay for a while, you grasp onto them like they're the love of your life, and you see the situation, and that's what happened in my opinion. And let's be honest here. And again, you saw what happened with the DeMar situation. We discovered his quote-unquote leadership abilities, especially early on. It's never talked about after they won the championship. Kyle was acting like a fool. He was invisible manning people out in the thing, trying to send a message that he was unhappy, and he was taking jabs at Masai. He was acting like a petulant child.
Which series was this? What year was this?
This was the year they traded DeMar. He's doing some invisible claps, acting like a fool, like trying to prove a point.
Remember, he had to sit down with Rachel Nichols
and he took shots.
Yeah, and he took shots. This is the championship year.
Yeah, and this is again from a guy at the end of the day that this is a team that had massive failings, and that you could see that wasn't going to had just been swept off the floor by LeBron and company, and not anywhere. Like if it had been like a stacked Cleveland team, I would have said, you know what, it is what it is. But that was maybe the weakest Cleveland team that LeBron had.
But still a finals team.
A finals team. Yeah. Again, because of who they had at the end of the day. Again, even if you lose the series, you don't lose.
Show some resiliency.
They ended up being what the Atlanta Hawks were, which was basically a fool's goal. They were phonies. And that's why Masai made the deal he made, because they just weren't going to
realize you couldn't win like this anymore.
And you're telling me, well, what happens if now that LeBron went to the Lakers, would the Raptors have done anything with DeMar? I don't think so, because you look at the same situation.
You would have ran it back.
That team isn't beating, even if DeMar stays over there. That team's not beating Philly. That team's not beating. That team's not beating the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're kidding yourself.
Well, that's the thing. You look at what Kawhi did, and you see. I think, and I talked about this so many times on the show. When you have a guy like Kawhi that's a superstar, everybody falls into their natural secondary, tertiary roles, right? So it's like if Kyle DeMar is your top guy, that's cool in the regular season. There's no pressure. There's no in-your-face defense.
Absolutely.
You're not getting the best defending. All of a sudden, playoff comes. Teams are game planning to stop you. It's like, okay, let your third guy beat you, and then you're seeing these guys are not who we thought they were. Kyle and DeMar did what they did for the most part. Juggle, just a fact.
Yeah.
And then
that's
then, like I said, it's the same thing you talk about guys like LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, also like guys like that. Just where it's like, okay, who can we use in Miami or any other situation? I don't know. Let's just use I'm just saying like a guy that was a top guy, but then they're not a top guy. So you get that, and all of a sudden the pressure's off.
Sure.
Like we talked about in the finals, where Fred, Pascal, Kyle, they're getting single defending, sometimes a sag-off defender, and sure, you capitalize on your opportunity, but you're not the top guy. Kawhi had to deal with getting double-teamed every time, still carrying that team on his back when, like we said, Fred was not doing good with the whole birth and child thing, Kyle was terrible, Siakam was terrible, OG was terrible, and fate happens, and Kawhi hits that shot, all of a sudden we get to the East Final against Milwaukee, everybody comes back to life. Get to the finals. Once again, everybody's taking 8 shots a game instead of 20, and they're all of a sudden everybody's a great player.
Now what happened based off of the fact of what happened to the Clippers situation? Now they're like, well, look, everybody, maybe it wasn't all Kawhi and so forth, which is like as a valid point in this situation. Did Kawhi have a bad series against the Nuggets? Absolutely. He had a
game 7.
He had a bad, and again, that is going to happen to players. It's happened to a lot of players.
But nobody else picked up the slack.
Yeah, but the whole team. I'm not saying that Kawhi deserved all the credit, but he deserved a huge chunk of the credit.
A lot of it. Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. So how can you claim that someone is the greatest Raptor of all time when until that year their biggest legacy was I enjoy the Bulldogging. I think he talks too much sometimes. Again, the defense taking the charges. He's a tough little guy. I think somebody made a mention. I think it was the Wizards series. And again, another guy that had issues with conditioning. I think I had a message someone say that. Remember Fat Kyle?
Yeah.
Remember Fat Kyle? And again, that's another guy. So you're talking about now he looks like he's fine, but he has some years where he's been a problem for him. So again, that's a guy that's supposed to be the leader of the team. That's supposed to be in shape. Anyways, overall his legacy would have been as an underachiever. A Raptor that had been here for a while and an underachiever.
Yeah.
So now we go into the two top candidates.
Yes. Now it's getting interesting.
This to me, I will go with in terms of, and again based on the criteria, overall talent wise on both ends of the floor, I have to take Kawhi based off of what I've seen because offensively he brought it up to another level and defensively he's on a different level than Vince. So I got to give Kawhi on a talent. In terms of impact. You see that Vince Carter, and this is why the young guys, this is why I get annoyed by some of the young guys with the whole Kyle thing. They see, yes, the Vince Carter thing blew up because of what management and so forth. Talent, it was unquestionably that Vince is much more talented than Kyle. It's not even on defensively, no, but in terms of overall basketball player, absolutely. The Raptors back then were an absolute joke. Absolute joke.
Before Vince or what?
Before even Vince, we had again. This is I'm aging myself in this situation. We were an absolute joke.
Pre-Vince, yeah.
Pre-Vince, we had a situation where we had the rookie of the year and decided that he didn't want to be there and he left and so forth. Then all of a sudden, from North Carolina, and then the trade with Anton Jameson, you get this guy that all of a sudden all eyes are on the Raptors. This guy's dropping dunks. This guy's doing some Superman stuff. And it's the hottest ticket in town. Everybody wants to go see the Raptors because the man is box office. He's a superstar.
The one guy, if you polled people that who would you pay to see, it's probably Vince Carter during those early 2000s.
Vince Carter, in his prime time with the Raptors, was getting comparisons to Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So that right there shows you the type of impact you had. Guys people that didn't pay attention to basketball whatsoever going there to see Vince Carter with his highlight dunks. His attitude. The Raptors got games on NBC because of Vince Carter. Unprecedented for them. He put them on the map. Yes. Is his legacy because of what happened and how he left?
A little bit
tainted. Absolutely. You saw, but again, and he goes to show you about certain situations. That I watched that game where he came back. I forget if it was with Memphis or with Dallas. I believe it was with Memphis. Where I remember the first game when he came back to the Nets. I paid to watch the first game of the Nets. They were throwing diapers at him. They were throwing all sorts. It was the most volatile. I went to UFC fights. It was the most volatile crowd I've ever seen in my life because they were legitimately booing. The whole stadium was booing magnificently. I was always a Vince Carter guy. And I cried when I cried when they traded him. I was a 13-year-old and I literally cried. I came home. I'll never forget. I came home. I got onto my old desktop computer. And I went to tsn.ca because that's what we do. The internet just really came up, really. And I saw that trade and I'm like, oh my God. And I literally broke down because I literally loved watching the man play and knowing that he wasn't going to be a Toronto Raptor anymore hurt me. And
especially when you saw
this is the one thing that me and the quote unquote correspondent always agreed on. The impact that the man had when he was in Toronto. The dunk competition, everything, getting first All-Star votes. Kyle would not sniff that.
Okay, but we're off Kyle. Comparing Kyle and comparing Vince.
So the impact, the Carter effect, the documentaries, all this stuff, the love that Andrew Wiggins and I started playing basketball because of Vince. Yeah. That's the type of impact that quote unquote. And again, if Vince hadn't left the way that he left, this wouldn't even be a discussion. It would not even be a discussion. If he had stayed a couple more years and then went off to greener pastures, he had some success.
Playoff success. He was great. He was good at the playoffs.
That Philadelphia situation, he got a lot of rap for going to his graduation, which maybe he should not have done. That series with Allen Iverson, and Allen Iverson at that point was a prime Allen Iverson, maybe the best player next to Kobe Bryant in the game. It was an amazing series.
Yeah.
Still, maybe the best basketball series that I've seen. The Philly series a couple of years ago was great, but man, back and forth. Allen drops 50. Vince drops 50. It was like a battle of titans, and you were invested. And then you get into the Bosh era, you get into the Kyle era. I was never as invested as I was before because I had lost a little bit of a piece because of what happened in the situation.
And those guys weren't on the same level.
And because you got used to the playoff failures.
Yeah.
How many times on this show do we come up and we're like, blow it up,
Yes.
blow it up, blow it up. We get accused by blowing up. They've got talent, and then they underachieve. Blow it up, blow it up. And we got so frustrated.
They fooled us a lot of times.
And a lot
but
of
Kawhi changed that.
And this is why Kawhi Leonard goes up to my number one slot. And this
Kawhi's
is the reason,
number one.
And this is the reason why. A 1 year situation, but
a hired assassin.
Again, talent wise, look, see, down goes Kyle. Perfect timing. Again, individually, talent. He's a better defender than Kyle. He's an overall better basketball player than Kyle. There's no thing. Leadership, even though there's some questions and so forth. Guy's very quiet. They're up in Golden State. Hey, Nick Nurse is like, hey, we'll go up to Golden State. Let's try to win a game. Screw that, man. Let's go get 2. That's the type of mentality that these guys needed. And again, you can say what happened this year with Kawhi and whatever the problems he had with the Clippers. Impact, talent-wise, number 1. Impact. 1 year, 1 championship. You can't beat 100%. That power. You can't beat that at the end of the day. And if the Raptors don't win another championship for 20 or whatever a lifetime might be, because that might be the case, you never know. Who had the biggest impact on the situation was one guy, that was Kawhi Leonard. He got us to the promise. So here's the thing, and we talk, and this might be a longer diatribe. So we talk a lot about relationships. This is what I wanted to use this metaphor and get it through you.
Someone pour me a shot, man.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about relationships and dating and so forth. So you have Kyle Lowry. So Kyle's been, let's say you're hypothetical, you're dating a girl for 8 years or 9 years. You have some good times. There's some bad times. There's some good times. And then all of a sudden, let's say you and that one take a break, or let's say you decide to be a bit of a dog and you end up having a side girl all the time. Okay. It's the best year. It's the best year of your life. She motivates you and gets you to the highest peak possible. So who's going to be more memorable in your lifetime? Is it going to be the 8 years of mediocrity, or is it going to be the 1 year
of greatness?
1 year of greatness. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? And I'd ask everybody, what's it going to be? 8 years of mediocrity, 9 years, or whatever it was, or the 1 year where you got to greatness and you achieved it through somebody else, not that. Number 4,
someone else motivating.
Somebody else motivating, and you being a big piece, not a main player, a good player. He had his moments, but maybe the 3rd or 4th player. But again, you got to that echelon. Who's going to be the one? My greatest girlfriend would be who? It would be the situation where I had that one good year. Even if she leaves,
yeah, you're in a better place.
I'm in a better place. I'm going to remember that 1 year and be like, man, this was absolutely amazing. I'm never going to forget it. The 8 years, I'll be like, well, it was all right. It was mediocre.
Yeah, it led to the other year.
No one's ever going to say mediocrity is going to take over greatness. I'll take 1 year of greatness over 8 years of doing not much of anything, right? And falling short. How many times? Oh man, we got swept again. I watched that the one where LeBron beat OG, and so and we were just like, oh god,
ran down the court.
Again. And that wasn't OG's fault. In the days he was a rookie. It was mediocrity. I'll take the 1 year of greatness, and thanks for the memories. But that'll stay.
You got Kawhi over Vince.
That'll stay.
Vince is your guy.
And Vince is my guy. And because of had Kawhi not won us a championship, yeah. I would still maybe give him the talent factor over Vince. But overall impact, 1 year, 1 championship, you're at 100%, baby. You're at 100%. And if he had stayed, who knows? Last year, again,
who knows?
If he stays, they might run that back. Yeah. It's a distinct possibility. They had the same players. They had a better OG. That it would have been a serious problem for even the Lakers. And I think the Lakers probably would have said the same thing. It would have been a problem. So that's what I'm going. I'm going with the greatness. I'm not going with mediocrity. Mediocrity is all right. A seat at the table, but not the big dog. I want the head of the table has got to be the most talented and the most impactful. Done and done.
Okay, so Igor has done his thing. He's got.
You have the floor.
I don't want to say that I disagree with the list. Bosh is a clear-cut 5. DeMar and Kyle, I just think that if DeMar would have stayed around and played Kyle's role on a championship-winning team, he'd be 3 instead of 2. Vince, I said, I agree for what he did on the court, off the court. for the kids, for the guys our age, for the parents that watched it back then, the charity games that he had. There was a buzz in basketball that kind of took off and made this from just a hockey city to a basketball city as well.
Exactly.
We're seeing that now. Kawhi to me, I think, is one. And since he's left, we can debate, how the taste in our mouth is after he left.
Sure.
The promises or what he wanted from the Raptors, private jets, Uncle getting some money, and debate whether or not that. But like you said, the guy came as a season ticket holder. I got excited every game. I went there to go see him. I'm like, wow, like this is. And I remember telling Zane, I was like, yo, man, like we're watching one of, at that point, like probably one of the top 5 players in the league every night. I was pissed off whenever he had to rest, but I was, it ended up working out because he missed a lot of games to rest for his quad. And I didn't know if he was kind of dicking us around, but I was like, hey, you know what? And I said this on the show. Brandon knows about this. You know about this. I was like, guys, like I think that the Raptors could win this championship. And people were like, I don't know. Like it's still the Raptors. We got Kawhi. I was like, yo, like if they win, play this clip. They won. It took a lot. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles.
Absolutely. They were fortunate.
Klay Thompson tore his ACL. But man, like I'll never like. I don't want to say that was the happiest moment of my life because I don't know about that. But like anybody that follows the show, follows the accounts, knows that like that was a massive moment in my life and yours too. I was down there for most of the games. I saw them, and those are moments that I'll never forget. Same thing with Vince. Even though I was around 13 when he was playing around here, I went to a few playoff games. Wasn't old enough to like really remember everything, but I remember, like I said, the hype, the vibes around the city. But Kawhi, like I said, man, it was just, you go there every game and you're in awe of like just a talent like that. Imagine, being able to like be in Cleveland or the Lakers right now and see LeBron every day or see, Giannis, like seeing a superstar. And then not only just seeing that, but getting a title.
And then one thing, again, we don't mention him on the list because to me, he when he was actually at his peak, he was a great player. I'm talking about McGrady. If he had been able to stay and coexist with Vince, we might have gotten some more of those moments.
For sure.
And the team in reality with what they had, if they had matured together, we probably would have made some
at least got a finals
berth because they had that type of talent. But again, that's what I'm talking about. I do not enjoy mediocrity. I will take one, like I said, one of the best moments of your life. And let's be honest, if it was led by that individual, you would not have gotten.
And that's why, like, I'm always and my I don't resentment towards Kawhi after what happened. I ask people all the time about Serge and everything. Are you guys mad that Serge left? A lot of people would say no, and obviously, with he's free to do what he wants. He signed an extension with us after we traded for him. Very thankful for Serge. It hurts to see him go for sure because not even just him as a player. He's a really good player, and like everybody else, you dog on him a bit, but you're happy for the guys you develop. I don't want to say like a relation, but like you develop kind of like a love for these guys, right?
Absolutely.
When you watch the team and all that. And after Kawhi left, like I remember saying, and I did like a little video the day that he left, and I was like, like it's not going to be the same when he's not here anymore, and it's not.
But you'll always have the memories.
You'll always have the memories. He didn't like badmouth the team on the way out, and when he left, I know a lot of people didn't want to see him win with the Clippers, and you got that at least in the first year.
Sure.
And you saw some, like skeletons out of the closet now, where it's like, oh, hey, like this guy's a prima donna. And we saw that here, but the Raptors, to their credit, kept everything on the low all the time. Right?
And again, it's, just another guy that at the end of the day went back home.
Went back
Cold
home.
weather, at the end of the day, wanted to be in San Diego. There's all this other stuff that was going on there. Again, another jaded situation where the Raptor fans got jaded. And now they want to see the guy not do well. I know
people don't want to see him not do well.
We had guys that we personally know that I know when the Clippers got eliminated, they were all over social media and their Instagrams and cracking jokes about. And all that. You get that. You feel bad once you get rejected. It's just a human nature type of thing. But again, I go into the fact that I can, and again, still I've had some really good luck with the football team, the soccer teams.
Yeah.
The only thing missing is the goddamn hockey team, and Lord knows what that will happen. Yeah. But that at least will always be a cherished memory that I can say that the Raptors, you'll never forget it. And it may not never happen again, but we'll always have that one situation where we were on top. A Canadian team was on top of the NBA world, even though American media absolutely hated us. They didn't want to be here. You talk Stephen A. Smith. We were getting told that we were going to be out. The series was over in Milwaukee. Milwaukee was up 2-0. They don't want to see Canadian teams succeed. It's why the Raptors don't get the respect they do. No Christmas game again this year. anything along that nature, because it doesn't do anything for the American markets. So they had to eat it, and it might be the one time where we made them eat it, and that is going to be a situation that we owe to Kawhi Leonard. And again, Kyle had his game 6. Give the man his props. They all played as a team. That they got things done.
And obviously,
but
Masai orchestrating that.
But that was what got him over the top, because again, we can go through all the lists of the teams that have won championships. Without a superstar player, you don't win in this league. The only team that's had that one situation, to me, and because of that crazy defense that they played, was the Detroit Pistons, where they had Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. They had a crazy defense, and Rip Hamilton. They didn't have a superstar player, but everything since then, it's always been star-driven. Top 3, top 5 NBA players. If you don't have one of those, you're not going to win. And that's the situation. So, props to Kyle. Good for him. Longevity award, give it to Kyle. No problem with me. Give him the Lifetime Achievement Award.
You give him a statue?
I give him, oh boy, I don't know if I give him a statue. But anyways, that's another conversation for, again, he's a likable guy in some situations. I personally think he flops too much. I maybe because of so many disappointments, I've gone off the Kyle bandwagon or the Kyle train. Again, other people like his attitude and see certain things. And he represents Toronto. Again, to me, a couple of years ago in free agency, he was probably going to be gone if he got any decent offers. The Raptors paid him more.
Would you say the same for Fred? Would have been gone?
Possibly. Wants to get paid. Again, the market dried up. Again, he was talking to San Antonio. He wanted to go back to Philly. Yep. They weren't offering the money that the Raptors did, so he comes back to the Raptors. So be it. He actually strong-armed the Raptors last year into giving him another year because he didn't want to be playing on a one-year deal. Raptors were smart with that. It's a better free agent class. His expiring deal makes more sense. If the team's not doing well, you trade him. Overall, like I said, props to Kawhi. Kyle's got his place. Come at me at Twitter. I will go with this whole integrity leadership type thing. The leadership thing I never really understood because Kyle has cried a lot in a lot of situations.
He's had a lot of off-court. He's matured a lot since he got here.
I don't know what clip you're using for. If you're gonna use the Rumble thing, I'll never forget that clip. 3-0. We gotta go to Cleveland and we gotta rumble. And he lays a 5-point duck. And he plays terrible, and he was trash.
Was that the game where DeMar got ejected?
That was
a different series.
That was the series where DeMar got benched. Yeah. And that's another thing.
And then he did the flagrant 2 and he asked for himself for a seat.
That basically was the era.
That was the end of that era. Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking. And that's even putting DeMar at 3. When's the last time you saw a superstar player get benched in a second-round playoff series? You don't see it.
You know what? You don't want to can't leave props to Dwayne Casey for having the balls to do that.
Because again, it was I don't know if it was
give him
mental
the best chance to win.
And then you had the memes like LeBron toe and him carrying Kyle and DeMar as children.
I don't want to relive that.
Again, I'm talking. So what did Kawhi do? Kawhi do when he was here? He put some respect on Toronto's name. Now again, we didn't have to go through the LeBron or whatever, but even again, so forth. That team again, fortunate enough a little bit with the Golden State situation. No denying that. But he put some respect on the Toronto spectrum, where we were a laughingstock with the memes, LeBron toe, all this other stuff, because LeBron had spanked the Raptors. I think I had the stat. It was 2-12 in series.
In Cleveland for sure, they were terrible in Cleveland.
Well, no, they had 3 series. They only had won 2 games the entire in 12 games. Yeah, it was 2.
Well, they went to game 6, one of them. So
that's the only 2 games they won. They got swept the other 2 times. So that's 12 losses and 2 wins. So they were 2-12 against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs. And again, these are teams that the Raptors were higher seeds in a lot of situations.
Cleveland was a superior team.
In a lot of situations. But that Cleveland team, the one that they got, so I would say no, because that one, they should have at least taken a few games, because yes, you have LeBron James. The man's been a beast in the playoffs. It seems to be in the finals almost every year that he actually goes into the playoffs. But again, it was the way that they lost, not even winning a game, the rumbling to 5 points. That's where, again, I got off the whole so many disappointments happened with Kyle that I just stopped. It just got so bad that I couldn't take it anymore, because it kept up,
draining your soul too.
And after a while, you just can't do it anymore. And some guys are still on the train. And again, you'll have this place at the table, but to me, again, mediocrity, elite status, 1 year, and again, lifetime achievement. You can give it to Kyle. Give him a statue. He'll look good with the statue. Maybe you'll have the one with the trophy. Give him the statue. I don't really care about giving the statue. At the end of the day, it was mediocrity. The Kyle Led's time with the Raptors was mediocrity. He needed someone that was better than DeMar. He got it. They lucked out a little bit, and so be it. He had his place. He'll get his ring, But I don't know about this Hall of Fame talk either. But I mean,
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. We talked, but we're gonna end it at this. I was trying to think of a comparable to Kyle Lowry.
Mike Conley.
I think Mike Conley. If Mike Conley was in the East, when you're going in the West, Chris Paul, Darren Williams back in the day, like all.
And again, we're gonna get slang about this. I know. This
I don't think so. I don't know about that. Like to say that he's the third best Raptor of all time. I don't think that you're saying anything insane. You take away the ring, and I don't think anybody's questioning anything.
You'd be surprised. Let me tell you, you'd be surprised. And I think that someone listed. This was last week on social media and on Twitter. Someone listed who's the greatest Raptor. The Kyle wasn't even in the graphic. It was like three guys. I believe it was Kawhi, Vince, and Bosh. Kyle wasn't even in the graphic. Man, the amount of Kyle Lowry's trending on Twitter.
That's crazy. To say that Bosh is ahead of him.
Well, no. Well, again, he didn't say he was ahead of him. He basically didn't put Kyle on the graphic for whatever reason. Maybe again Bosh was having more rings or whatever it is. But man, the amount of people that are like go to Kyle Lowry, and I'm like. I mean, I question the situation because it's like everyone forgets the mediocrity and the sweeps just because of what happened in 2018.
Let's compare this. We got to end it, but let's compare it to James Harden. James Harden, once again, he's won a few playoff series. Sure. Never made it to the conference final once, like I said, with Chris Paul, who's
made it to the finals the year with Durant.
Yes, as a
rookie. But he's a rookie,
I'm not really counting that. If you how would you? That's a guy that's won MVPs, but you look at his playoff success, and if he never wins another playoff series or wins one round, would you look at him in a different? Obviously, Harden's a superior player, but
it's a more talented player than Kyle. Now again, Kyle's attitude is what wins a lot of people over, and for some people they like. I don't again when it's a solid charge and he does what he does. Absolutely, he takes a lot. Again, he does flop
in the All-Star game.
He flops. Oh yeah, he flops a lot. He complains to the refs a lot. That gets him into a lot of trouble. And to me, he makes a lot of, and maybe because again I have different glasses when I'm watching Cal, makes a lot of bonehead decisions, makes a lot of bonehead plays. His stats in terms of game-winning shots or taking those things are absolutely abysmal. Yeah. Absolutely abysmal.
Playoffs.
The games, even in general. Game 6 when he had that shot and then Draymond got a piece of it.
Oh,
they had some stats at the end of the day. Sorry, that was game 5. Sorry, that wasn't game 6. They had some stats where he's shooting like the lowest percentage of any active NBA player in the last 20 or 30 seconds.
Yeah. So
he's not a guy that I would go on there and give him the ball with the game on the line.
But he's not a top. He's not the best player on a championship team or on an upper echelon team. He's the second guy.
But yet the greatest Raptor of all time with the talent that we've had.
If we had
bums, absolutely.
I think that Kyle's greatest feather in his cap for the greatest Raptor of all time discussion, I think, the ring obviously, but it has to be longevity. That's what it's driven on longevity. And this is where you just if you're picking Kawhi as one like I am, longevity is not in it at all, and that's fine too. But you just need to understand that if you're taking that out of it, then it's different.
But I go back to that metaphor that I made. So what would you choose in that? So would you take the 7 or 8 years of mediocrity? Or would you take the 1 year of greatness? Let's say if it was deemed to be a relationship, in terms of your greatest relationship of all time. Let's say those were your only 1 or 2 or 3 options.
Trying to stick with this as a metaphor, wouldn't you have to marry the girl to win a championship compared to basketball?
Well, let's say at the end of the day, it wouldn't even be the marriage situation. Let's say because again, remember, they're gonna leave you. Let's say that she motivated you
to reach your
highest level. Let's say you're working at the bank, you end up being a high level VP because she motivates you to get there and it makes you work hard for it and you get to achieve your job goals. It doesn't be marriage goals, it would be job goals.
And
the other one
to answer the question, which I think I already know, you're with neither of them in present day.
No. Well, again, at the end of the day, maybe now that, and again, this is the situation technically. Now that the one that's brought you to the highest echelon and motivated you to get there, she basically went off to greener pastures, and now you're left with the mediocrity again, and you're okay where. Well, and this is the mentality that people have. We're okay now being a little bit mediocre at the end of the day because we've already hit the highest strength, so now we're good for a couple of years, right? We're gonna win every year, right? So now you're like, I'm okay with being a little bit mediocre for a little while because now we're good. We've already reached the highest level, right?
It's a strange metaphor, but
I think it works.
Comparing it to basketball, obviously you want the championship. So I'm taking Kawhi in that level. And if you're saying that it's the 1 year relationship, then I guess.
But it got you to that VP job or whatever big job you wanted to get, or your aspirations of being. And maybe if it fulfilled you as a person, that got you into a next level as a person, like a personal involvement.
All right.
There you go. I think that was a good example.
Yeah. That wraps it up for the show. So Kawhi 1, Vince 2,
Kyle
3,
3,
DeMar 4, Chris Bosh 5.
Yes. And I'm sure I'm gonna get enough hate for that, but whatever.
We'll see. We're gonna post a clip. Next week we're gonna do the NBA season preview with NBA kicking off on December 22nd. Me, Igor, and we're gonna have Don Kinger from ATB to join us. So we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the preseason, and we'll see you then.
I thought you were only maybe 20 minutes. That's too much to say, man.